Hi everyone, I think I'm online, but I'm not sure. I also think that the screen is a little delayed, but hopefully we can do something together here. Let's take a look. This is kind of going very slowly. I just wanted to talk today about a few things, including mental health, managing chronic illness. I recently had a call with my therapist who was very helpful in discussing a few things. We talked about we were talking about how exhausting it can be to manage chronic health and chronic illness. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit today. I think this is quite delayed, so hopefully it works, but if not, it's fine. But me and my therapist were talking about chronic illness and how hard it is that when you wake up, you have to make so many different decisions that will affect how the rest of your day is. Because I feel like for me, at least, it's really hard to make sure my day is going well, because if it's not going well, a lot of different things could happen. I could relapse, I could be really fatigued, I wouldn't be able to finish work, I would be stopped from, being able to take care of myself and my relationship with people. So it's really important that I make every right decision. Like, for example, in the morning, for example, in the morning, when I wake up, I have to decide if I'm in the right headspace to wake up, or if I'm feeling like a headache or a migraine or a lot of brain fog. And so when I am making decisions about whether to get up or not, every decision that I make could have either really good consequences or really bad consequences. And it's so important that I make the right decision. For example, let me just tell you about my day. This is what my day looks like. So let's say I wake up first thing in the morning, like 9:30 in the morning, and I have a headache, and I'm just not feeling well. And I think to myself, okay, should I sleep for another 20 minutes or should I wake up? Because I just don't know what the rest of the day will be like if I wake up then. So let's say I decide to wake up and I think to myself, okay, I have a headache, and I know if I take my Concerta while I have a headache, I'm going to have a worse headache and I'm not going to feel well, I'm going to be fatigued, and I'm not going to have a good day. So maybe I should take a Tylenol and a chamomile tea before I take my Concerta, in order to try to stop the potential of it being a bad day. So I feel like every decision that I make is so calculated and has to be perfect, or else something really bad can happen to me. And what I mean by that is, I'm an alcoholic. I know a lot of people with neurodivergency also have that kind of, what's it called again? Comorbidity. And I know that if I have a really bad day, it could be way easier for me to relapse. And that's really dangerous. So it's important to me to make the right decisions every day and be perfect and not make a mistake. And an example would be one time, so last time I relapsed in November. I had a pretty normal day until I accidentally took a sleeping pill instead of my Concerta. And after taking my Concerta, I immediately took the quetiapine, after taking the quetiapine, I immediately took my Concerta to try to combat the effects of the sleepiness so that I wouldn't have a bad day. That didn't work. Instead, I ended up in a really weird headspace with a headache, with just feeling strange, and I ended up relapsing that day. And I feel like if that hadn't happened, I possibly wouldn't have relapsed that day. I closed really because I can't do two things at once. And just making the wrong decision, just a little wrong decision, can be so devastating to my life. And it's really hard to think about that, because I feel like most people don't have that difficulty. They don't like if they accidentally take the 2 sleeping pills, they're not going to go and drink and then ruin their whole life. Like that's what happens if I make a mistake. So every day when I wake up, I have to, like, everything I do is a big decision. Like, okay, my husband has asked me to do the dishes. Do I do the dishes now, even though my arms really hurt, and I know that if I do the dishes now, I'll probably need to take a nap later, or should I tell him, hey, can I do the dishes tonight? And hopefully, he's pretty chill about everything, and hopefully he's helps me out with that, and I end up not being fatigued later that day. So I don't know if anyone else experiences this, like when you really think about your day and what you're going through, do you end up having to make all these little decisions like I'm doing, or is it something that's way easier? Hi, Deloni. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right, but it's good to hear from you, and thank you so much for commenting. I feel like I'm just talking to myself a lot of the time, so I love when people comment. I really appreciate it. But yeah, I don't know if anyone else has this experience, because I was talking to my therapist, and she was like, that must be so exhausting for you, having to wake up and I think about every little thing that I have to do that day and decide which ones I have to do when, why, in order for me to have a good day. So I thought that was really interesting. I hadn't thought about it that way before my therapist mentioned it to me. Yeah, I just hadn't thought about it that way. But it is really exhausting having to be on edge all the time to make the right decision. And I feel like a lot of people with neurodivergency or like something like chronic fatigue, like I had, would struggle with that kind of thing, because there's a lot of expectations of you that come from your friends, family, loved ones, and you have to both meet those expectations but also take care of yourself at the same time. And finding a balance between that can be so hard, especially if doing something that you might not be ready to do will affect you in a negative way. SC, when you were facing chronic pain, did you notice any mobility, gait abnormalities? Not like a ton, but yes. If I was specifically, it would be a lot of my limbs and my joints, just like this terrible soreness, and also like my bones. I had bone pain. And when that would be really bad, I would have slight mobility and gait abnormalities. Definitely, yes. I would also feel my legs shaking sometimes, and weakness. So that was something that I dealt with. Is that something that you're facing when you have chronic pain, SC? And then from Golden Faith Edge, ADHD negative suck, but have you tried playing video games on Adderall? It's honestly no different for me. When I don't take my medication, I feel like I'm exhausted and I can't really focus. But when I do take my medication, I just feel like kind of normal. It doesn't feel like some kind of crazy thing. I don't really get high on my medication. It just makes things more normal for me. So yeah, that really hasn't been a case for me. I do play a lot of video games, not like other people do. I play RuneScape and I like Neopets. I've been playing a lot of Neopets lately. And yeah, that doesn't really affect, my concerto doesn't really affect it. It just makes me pay attention to it more and maybe makes me want to do it for longer. But that's really it. Deloni, you relate. Yeah, I can imagine being a college student or someone who is very occupied by something, whether it's work or whatever. It can be hard to navigate your ADHD. I don't know how I did it, given I didn't have a diagnosis. I think I was just drinking a lot to kind of mask it and make myself able to survive. But yeah, I think it's a lot of trying, for me at least, it's looking ahead, in the week, okay, today I feel really bad and I can't focus on anything and I'm having trouble, paying attention, and so maybe instead of writing my paper today, I'll write it in 2 days or something. Maybe thinking like that. For me, it was a lot of planning ahead and trying to make it work somehow, because that was the only thing I could do. Because some days my pain was so bad, or I felt so my brain fog was so bad, there was no way I was going to be able to do work that day. So I had to put it off and just try to survive. I felt like a lot of the time I was just trying to survive. SC, I don't consume weed. It never really did anything good for me. I feel like I either like got really, really high and it like I called my mom and told her my arm was falling off, or like I took it recently and it didn't do anything. I was just sitting there like, okay, even though my friends had taken more. So yeah, it doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for a lot of people, but it works for some. And so definitely ask other people in the chat. They might be able to tell you more. I guess Delaney here has some experiences. But again, I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. A lot of my friends use it, but I do know that a close relative of mine, a sibling, did enter psychosis, and we discovered that they had schizophrenia because they have a weed addiction, and it ended up exacerbating their mental health, and so they ended up in the hospital with a diagnosis. So it definitely doesn't affect everyone the same, and maybe that's why I don't enjoy it, because maybe in my genetics we don't like it and it's bad for us, but I know some people enjoy it, and they can do it safely. For me, that's not really the case. But I know that for a lot of people it can calm them down, so I feel like everyone has to figure out what works for them and what doesn't. Yeah, that's what I would have to say about that. Something else I've been thinking about is control, and it definitely helps to use CBD with chronic pain for a lot of people. I haven't tried CBD. Do you find that CBD helps you? For me, again, it's one of those like things that I'm like, CBD, would it work, or is it just like a big marketing thing? Maybe I should try it out when my pain is bad. I don't know about you guys, but if any of you do have ADHD and have or had chronic pain, did your chronic pain get better or feel better when you were on medication? For me, that was very much the case. If you watched one of my first videos about ADHD, you would know that I spent like 2 years looking for a reason why I was in pain all the time and why I was sleeping 16 hours a day. And I did sleep studies, and I did all these blood panels and just all these different things to try to figure out what was wrong with me, because I was so frustrated and so sick of being tired and in pain. And nothing came back until I got my ADHD diagnosis, because I was so tired of just feeling that way. And I started doing some Googling, and I found inattentive ADHD, and I was like, that fits perfectly, except for a few things like my pain and such. And when my doctor finally diagnosed me with ADHD, it felt so good, because I was able to get on medication. And there was things that the medication affected that I did not think would affect. For example, it affected my pain, and I don't fully know why, but the medication helped with my brain fog, it helped me with my energy, it helped me with my focus, and it helped me with my pain. And I do not know why to this day. I don't know why, if there's a scientific thing to it, but yeah, it was just like, whenever I have bad days and like my medication isn't working right, or I do the wrong thing, or I wake up at the wrong time, I definitely have pain, but it's better for some reason when I'm on medication. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because like before I got on medication, before I got treatment, I was just always trying to plan the next thing. I was like, okay, I'm exhausted today. What do I need to do? I need to go to the dishes. I also need to do the washing. I also need to work. And having all that mental work is exhausting, and maybe that's why it affected my stomach. Oh, not my stomach. Why did I say stomach? I was reading something and I said stomach. And that's maybe why it affected my pain. But I'm just not sure. I don't know if anyone knows anything about that. Thank you, Deloni. I would definitely try it. That's helpful to know. Hopefully your father is feeling better. Rory, I never tell anyone, but a psychotherapist who specializes in autism and ADHD diagnosed me with both. A doctor also recommended me to get an official diagnosis. I won't ever tell anyone unless I have an official diagnosis. It costs so much money though. Yeah, honestly, getting diagnosed can be so hard and expensive. So yeah, that's pretty tough. I don't understand from your message. Were you able to get diagnosed? Thank you so much, Deloni. Thank you for your comment and supporting me. I really appreciate it. And I'm glad that you came and I wasn't talking to myself. Essie, that's a really good point. I didn't think about it that way. You're right. It does, and that makes sense. I feel like I'm in a constant battle to continue to improve, to continue to avoid that pain coming back and that discomfort and the brain fog. And that's another hard thing to think about. It's like it's an ongoing battle that's never going to stop. And if I do stop fighting or I do stop trying to have a good day or whatever, I could just easily go back into the hard stuff. So yeah, I don't know. I just thought of that, and that's pretty dark. But yeah, I'm sure all of you have heard of like what's it called? The Body Keeps the Score, that book by Bessel van der Kolk. And I know there's some controversy around that book and the author now. But I really thought that the notion, that's where I first heard the notion of your brain and trauma and different things like that cause chronic pain and autoimmune disorders and things like that. So that has really changed my view on like how, like the fact that I have to handle my mental health or else I could be in big trouble physically. But yeah, I really enjoyed that book. Definitely read into some of the criticism before you check it out, because some people don't like it. But yeah. Rory, okay. How do you find work and keeping a job? I struggle really bad with this. So I actually want to make a whole video about this because I have found that a lot of people are struggling with this. I recently also discovered something called pathological demand avoidance, which is part of the autism spectrum. I'm not diagnosed with autism, but I did find it very relatable to me. And pathological demand avoidance is when you pathologically avoid demand. Like you just get really annoyed or angry when someone asks anything of you. And that feeds back into work. And I feel like a lot of people struggle with finding a work and keeping a job and enjoying a job and being willing to do a job and not job hopping. And I feel like a lot of neurodivergent people struggle with that. And I feel like my main reason why I would struggle with the job is because I have demand avoidance. I get really annoyed when like someone tells me what to do and I don't agree with them. Something about neurodivergent people or autistic people or people with ADHD, we have a strong sense of justice and what's wrong and right. And at least for myself, I like to be in control. And so when I'm working in an environment where I can't be in control of everything, like say my manager is telling me what to do and trying to manage what I do and tell me I can't do something or something like that, I feel like that is not an environment that I would be able to do well in. But what I have found is that, so my current job is a perfect job for me, and I just stumbled into it. I got really lucky, but it's a job where I am able to manage my own work, decide what projects I work on, when I do them, why I do them, where I do them. So I got really lucky because I work from home, so I can wake up whenever I want and do work whenever I want. And that's something that really helps me. And when someone asks me to do something, if I don't agree with it, I find a hard time doing it and wanting to do it. But what I found helps me at my current job, so I work on issue-based politics, right? So I really care about the core issue that we work on. And so do my coworkers. So if they demand something of me that I don't think is the best way, but they're my superior, I try to think of it in a way like I and my coworkers have this shared value, and in order to make the mission move forward and for our job to get done, we need to work together and I need to do this task. So being able to unify the task under like a shared vision or something that I care about makes me feel more like I can do it. To get back to the question, I think what I've gotten from people who have these issues is that if possible to do a job where you're in control of your time and hours, to do a job where you can be in control of what you do and when you do it. Obviously, this is way easier said than done, but this is what I have found, that people with PDA or these kinds of issues are able to kind of figure out that they need. So like having more autonomy and control over what you do and when you do it definitely could help. I think like obviously being a business owner, but like that's obviously hard to do. But let's say like you like woodworking, you want to start doing carpentry, you can take on which projects you want, you can do it when you want, etc., etc. Or getting a job that's like remote, where you can do it whenever you want, wherever you want. Your coworkers don't know what you're doing, so you can do whatever, whenever. Something that would also help, I think, if possible, or does this like make sense to you? Like, do you feel that like do you think finding a job where you have a little bit more control over your day and what you do, would that help you? Something that I've also found is like some employers are more open to working with their employees to make sure that everything can get done and everyone's working the best. For me personally, I've asked for concessions from my employer to help me do my better job. So for example, if someone talks to me and gives me instructions, there's no way in heck that I'm going to remember to do that unless I've written it down or unless they've written it down for me. So a lot of the time, like if someone says something in a meeting and it's like long-winded and they want me to do all this stuff, I'll be like, hey, thank you so much, I'll definitely be doing that. It would really help me out if you can write down your write all of this down and send it to me via Slack, and that way I have like a written record of it, so my memory, which is horrible, won't forget, and I know exactly what I have to do because they wrote it down. So asking for little concessions like that, or maybe saying like to your manager, if like he's saying something to you and you have a bad memory and you need to write it down, saying something like, hey, Matt Boss, can you give me 1 second? Let me get a notepad. It really helps me to work better if I'm able to write down notes, and just come back with your notepad, and he'll think that you're like, he'll be happy that you were willing to write down notes and willing to try a little bit harder to get things done. So just like thinking about different tools that you could use to make things easier for yourself. Or another thing that I don't know too much about is getting protections with the ADA. And yeah, I don't know too much about that, but maybe I'll talk about it in another video after I do some research. Hallie, one reason you quit your job is because the rules always change, so I never was comfortable, and demands change from person to person, so I felt like I was working too hard. Yeah, that can be so struggling, especially when you feel like you're doing more than your colleagues and you're not sure what is expected by you. Did you feel like you were able to speak to your manager about that? Like, did you feel like you would have been able to say something like, hey, I'm a person who struggles a little bit, I have neurodivergency, and so I get like a little bit stressed out when the rules change and demands are changed from person to person. Do you think you'd be able to help me when rules are like? Do you think you'd help me? Do you think you could help me by telling me in advance when rules are changing so I can prepare for the change? And do you think you could help? Do you think you could outline my tasks and what the demands are of me, just so I know and I can know what's expected of me? That way. They are helping you and they are realizing that you're taking initiative and trying to improve and do better. Is that something that you would have felt comfortable doing? I know this isn't the same for every job. Every job is different, and some coworkers, some managers aren't open or happy to help. Mine, thankfully, is my manager has experience with neurodivergency, and so they're open to, whenever I say, hey, I need, can you write that down for me because I'm not going to remember, could you please? And they do. Or another thing that really helped me is I need criticism told me directly. I don't like when people are like, hey, can you turn your camera on more often? I'd rather someone be like, hey, you're not turning your camera on enough in calls. I need you to turn your camera on more. Or I just need to be told criticism directly. Like, because if they tell me indirectly, or they say like, someone's not happy with you, how do I fix that? What do I do to fix that? And I like to be in control of everything, so I need to know the reason why people are unhappy with me. So I'd rather personally be told things very directly, like, you're doing a very bad job at this, or this project was really bad, so that I know specifically what I need to work on and improve. So I told my manager that. She was kind of like beating around the bush about like someone like was unhappy with it, and so I was like, hey, I really need you to tell me directly what specifically was the issue so that I can fix it. And she appreciated that because she saw that I wasn't just like upset or like angry that someone was unhappy with me, but I was trying to address the problem and find a solution. So again, asking for what I needed, which was direct criticism and being told exactly what the issue is, helps me rather than just some weird, like trying to make me feel better by not telling me what it is. And this also can protect you from future retaliation because it shows that you are working to improve your situation, and so your boss can't be like, she didn't do anything to try to improve, right? Hallie, she was constantly talking down upon a colleague that had autism, so no, I don't feel comfy, but I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, I feel like in that situation, it might be helpful to get like official protections. Obviously, this is a really big lift, and as we know, we're all people who struggle with big lifts and things like that. But I am planning to get ADA protections in the future, just so that if I ever relapse and can't get sober again, or someone starts attacking me for always needing written instructions, I'll be protected under the Disabilities Act, and they will not be able to like fire me or get me in trouble or discriminate against me. And they have to provide reasonable accommodations. Now, if you're not subscribed, make sure to subscribe. I'm going to make, I guess I'll do it just for myself, but also for my viewers. I think I'm going to try to go through the process of getting ADA protections so that I can talk more about it with y'all and tell you what it was like. So I think it's going to be hard. I think I have to get like doctor's notes and just all this stuff. And I can imagine that HR is going to make it difficult for me, but I am allowed to ask for these protections. I'm allowed to ask for concessions, and I'm going to try to do it just so that hopefully I can share with y'all the experience and how I went about it. Because, yeah, it's not fair that, Hallie, you're not able to tell your employer what you need, and it's not your fault that you need those things. It's not. Like, this is just how our brains work, and it's really not our fault. And we should be able to work in society and do what we need to do to provide for ourselves without being discriminated against. But yeah, I feel like also framing it in a way of being like, hey, I'm really like enjoying my job, and I really have enjoyed working with you, manager. Something I have been thinking about is that I like how the company, I like some of the rules that the company has changed. I think that they're really good. Something that I have struggled a little bit with is adapting, just because of like some, I don't know, just like I'm trying to find a way to say it in a way that makes them feel guilty and makes them a bad person if they're not, if they don't help you. Anyway, but just saying something like that, like, it would be really great, and like, I love working with you, and let's collaborate to find a way to make this work even better. Like, I'd love it if you could just tell me in advance if the rules are going to change, as it really helped me to adapt better and be a better team leader or a better teammate. So I feel like I'm constantly like trying to change the way I say things so that I can make people do what I need them to do. And yeah, that's just something I just thought about. But yeah, I think I'm going to try to seek out ADA protections for myself, but also so I can share that with the YouTube community, because I feel like a lot of people have questions about work and ADHD, and I don't have all the answers. I only have my own experience, which is, for me, it's asking explicitly what I need, telling them explicitly what I need, and trying to work somewhere where it's flexible and I can be in control of what I need and when I need to do it and all of that. I'm also thinking of doing a video in the future about relationships and ADHD and these kinds of things, because my relationship with my husband has been like up and down and up and down, and lately it's been going up. Like, we've had some hardships just with my chronic fatigue and him not knowing why I was so lazy or whatever, and unwilling to help, and to him now realizing that we can work together, or finding ways to work together to improve our relationship. And thankfully he's been really open to making changes. So I think I might make a video about that, because someone did comment asking about how I manage my relationships with ADHD. And I feel like me and my husband would be a good example to share, because it's been quite successful. Rory, being self-employed would be ideal for someone with ADHD. Yeah, no, 100%. And I feel like I'm basically self-employed because I'm allowed to manage most of my stuff. But even doing like YouTube, I'm able to see a glimpse of like, I can record when I want, I can record what I want about, like what I want to record about, and giving me that agency allows me to do things that I enjoy rather than being told what to do. So I can totally see where someone would be able to be self-employed. Now again, that's way easier said than done. Being self-employed, it can be so intimidating to get into, and I really don't have any tips on how to get into self-employment. I would just say, like, as close as I can say is like, try to get a remote job where no one's like looking over your shoulder all day, or try to get into a manager role where you aren't in totally being controlled all day. You have the decision making ability to choose what you want to do when. But yeah, Rory, 100%, being self-employed would be ideal for people. Absolutely, I would agree with that. Yeah, do you like being around people, or do they stress you out? I like being around people I'm comfortable around, but I prefer to be by myself. So I guess, yes, they stress me out. I 100% prefer to be by myself. If I could, I would like sit in my bed and just stare at the ceiling all day and like sleep. And sometimes I enjoy being around people. Again, like, I have to be really comfortable. No, Rory, that's why I'm here. I turned this on so that I could talk with y'all. And yeah, I'm not an expert or anything. I just like to talk about this stuff, and I wish that someone had been around for me to ask questions to when I was still figuring everything out. So don't worry about asking questions. This is literally titled Live Q&A. But yeah, I definitely struggle with being around people and making new friends, because I'm very picky about who I expend my energy on, because I only have so much energy as it is. My husband has a lot of friends, like way too many friends, and he always needs new friends. And yesterday we went out and met new friends, and I was very hesitant about it because I didn't want to, but it ended up being nice. And yeah, but I mean, yeah, generally I don't like to be around people. I like to be alone, and I've kind of accepted that. So I've stopped being like, I need to go meet people, I need to go do all these things, I need to go do all that, and I've kind of accepted who I am. I'm an introvert, and I didn't know I was. I really thought I was an extrovert for a long time, but I'm an introvert. I like to spend time by myself. I don't need other people around me all the time. And yeah, having too much people around does stress me out. So yeah, and I guess like it can be hard when you're so introverted and people are stressing you out, and you feel lonely, I guess, like, because you aren't able to make friends because you prefer to be alone. And I guess that can be a really big struggle that probably a lot of people feel. I mean, I feel like I found a lot of community with people online who feel similarly to me, and so that has made me feel less alone. But also, like, I've used apps like Bumble BFF because my husband really wants me to make a lot of friends, and I'm just like, nah, I'm good. But he really wants me to make friends, so on Bumble BFF, I'm just very specific. I'm like, hey, I don't drink alcohol, I'm pretty weird, I don't like to do a lot of stuff, I like to get real deep real fast, I don't like small talk. I just say very specifically what I need and what I want, and I found a few people that way. And yeah, I just like don't like to waste time on people that I don't think I'm gonna like, which sounds really like rude and lame, but girl, I'm tired. I need to sleep like more normal people. I have all these other things to do, and I'm not going to be spending time with people that I don't think I'm going to like. You know? Yeah, Blue Dream, how did you overcome the bitterness of getting a late ADHD diagnosis, especially after going through so much before treatment? I feel like therapy has really helped me, and becoming sober really helped me, because like there's this tenet of AA, which I feel like AA could be helpful for everyone, even if you're not an alcoholic. It's like, what is it, the control thing? Control AA. It's the let go of the things you can't control saying. What? 1 second, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'll be quick. Oh, it's Serenity Prayer. It's grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And I feel like realizing what things I can change and what things I can't change has given me a lot of peace, like thinking like there's nothing I can change about the fact that I got this late diagnosis. It is really irritating and annoying that this has happened to me, because they missed it all these years and I could have had a better life, and maybe I wouldn't have started drinking like this if I knew what was wrong. But that's not what happened. And I could spend a lot of time being really pissed off and angry about everything that happened, and not just about that, but about literally everything that has happened to me that has brought me a lot of trauma. But I can't control any of this stuff. What I can control is what I do moving forward. What I can do is go to therapy and talk about all the traumatic things that have happened to me, talk about my alcoholism, talk about my struggles with my current struggles with my family, with my husband, with my dad being sick, the grief I'm enduring, just absolutely everything, and attempting to move forward and improve those things. I feel like that's what helped me move on from the bitterness, is self-improvement and discovering more about myself and improving. Like even last time I talked to my therapist, I realized like what I talked about at the beginning of this video, where I was talking about how exhausting having to be perfect and make the perfect decision every day, or else I might relapse or have a bad day. And it's exhausting. And realizing that allowed me to give myself a lot of grace. Like, I am going through a lot, even though it doesn't seem like it is, because I have to make the right decision every day, or else I could relapse and ruin everything. So that's kind of how I deal with the bitterness, is I have accepted it. I've accepted what has happened, and the only way I did that was through therapy, a lot of therapy. So if you're not in therapy, I would 100% recommend it. And again, I love to control things and be in control of things, and everything I do stems from my need for control, because as a child I wasn't able to control a lot of things. Now I like to control things, so the thing that I can control is healing and moving forward and improving my relationship and learning new tools to do tasks I need to do, and to improve my ADHD symptoms, and to do this and that. And thinking about that, it's very exhausting. And I also was in therapy, and I just thought to myself for a second, I didn't say it, but I was like, I can't believe I'm going to have to do this for the rest of my life. And I almost started crying, because I was like, I can't believe I have to do this for the rest of my life. I have to be perfect for the rest of my life, because I could relapse and just lose everything. And I don't have an answer for that. It's just sad, and I don't know. It's been worth it though, because I have been able to have a wonderful, beautiful life after having to make all those perfect decisions. And I'm grateful, so I think it's worth it. Hallie, I definitely feel that, but I also have abandonment issues and people-pleasing tendencies that I'm working on. Yeah, I feel like that definitely goes back to the therapy thing again. I feel like I used to be a very insecure person and have a lot of abandonment issues. I had like this one really horrible relationship in college that like ruined me. And he ended up dying a few years ago. I think at age 25, he died of, I think, alcoholism. That's what we think. And there was just like a lot of trauma there. And yeah, I've had a lot of abandonment issues, and I've always wanted to people please because I felt like that was something I could do to control people's relationship with me and how they viewed me. And it wasn't until I went through therapy and kind of an AA that I kind of was able to look at everything that I've ever done, both everything that happened to me and all the horrible things that I've done to people, which I never acknowledged. I used to always view myself as the victim with my ex-boyfriend, the one who passed away, and I used to be like, he did all these horrible things to me and whatever. And it wasn't until I did the AA fourth step, which you could do by yourself without AA, and I was forced to admit to myself the horrible things I did to him. You know, I was mean, I wasn't honest with him, I was the one who started our first fight. And just being able to acknowledge my part in things and look at myself for who I honestly was, which wasn't just a victim, but, I've done some, mean things to people. That helped me to fully accept who I am. And to not just, accept, but, be proud of who I am. And I just suddenly didn't need to people please anymore. Because I knew who I was, and I had accepted who I was through therapy. And I found that I knew who I was. It is what it is. I've been through a lot. I have been the victim, but I've also been a perpetrator in many things. And I just don't give a fuck what people think about me anymore. And that's what happened. And I don't know what that turn was, but it was looking at myself and acknowledging what had happened to me, what the things I had done, accepting that there was nothing I could change about it. The only thing I could change about it was my future and my future reactions. That helped me to stop caring what other people thought about me, to stop being anxious around people, to do all these things. And that has allowed me to be so much more comfortable in my skin. So I don't know. I mean, it's definitely hard when you have abandonment issues and people-pleasing tendencies and trying to change that part of yourself that has been ongoing for so long, maybe even since you were a child. But again, therapy, I'm going to keep saying it. If you can't afford therapy, there's probably groups online, like Reddit, where you can have discussions. I'd love to do a Zoom call where I can actually talk to y'all, and we can talk about these things. I feel like I'm talking to computers sometimes. But yeah, I feel like therapy is just so important. And it can be so easy to just suffer and think of yourself as a victim, which we are, a lot of us are, and mostly are probably, but being able to look at all parts of yourself, the good parts, the bad parts, the everything, and being able to accept it, and has been so liberating and has allowed me to move on, and has also allowed me to come on this camera and say all these things, and say that I was mean to my ex-boyfriend. And that it wasn't just his fault. I would have never admitted to that. All my friends always heard me complaining about him, but I'm now able to take responsibility for my actions and make changes so I don't act like that in the future. And I feel like that's been so liberating. For my anxiety, for my depression, for all those things, and all those things interact with ADHD and my pain and everything like that. So I don't know, that's just my take on that. I don't know if that gave you any kind of insight, but that's been something that has been really liberating for me in both getting over my bitterness of a late ADHD diagnosis and going through everything that I did before getting treatment and dealing with abandonment issues and people pleasing. And yeah, I feel like this doesn't stop. I'm not healed. I'm not perfect. I am in therapy every week discussing things that are going on. Like right now, I feel like I am dealing with needing to take care of my family. My dad is very sick. He has cancer, and one he's not likely to get better from. And I don't have any control over this. Statistically, it's not looking good. I can't make him better. And I don't like not having control. I need to have control because as a child, I didn't have control. As a little girl, I didn't have control. And I need to be able to control things now because I have a little bit more agency now. And it's very upsetting to me. It doesn't make sense to me that I can't fix my dad. And I found that, like, I am a people pleaser sometimes, Hallie, definitely, like, but it's more for myself and not for them. It's more like, because as a child, I had a hard time, like, I had a lot of a hard time that I was very unhappy as a child. Like, all my memories as a child were really bad, unless I see a picture where something nice is happening. And then I'm like, oh yeah, that happened. But otherwise, all of my childhood memories are the bad ones. And that's what stuck with me. And I just remember being a really sad child. And now I am working to protect that child, to, like, I also want no one to experience that sadness I felt as a child, that difficulty as I felt as a child, that abandonment as I felt as a child. So that's why I try to help people, and I try, like, I'm here, like, trying to give y'all advice when I don't know anything, because I want to make sure no one else experiences some of the things I've tried to do, you know? I try to help if my dad ever offered to take us on a hike, my siblings were like, no, I don't want to go. I always, like, felt this deep, like, sadness for my dad, that nobody, that kids were, that my siblings were mean to him, and so I was going to go, even though I didn't need to go hike, and I would go, yeah, Daddy, let's go on a hike. And so I always felt like, I still do that. I still want people to never be hurt, and I want them to always be happy, and if I can do anything to make them happy, then I will do it. And so yes, I guess I am a people pleaser still. And it doesn't come from me needing their approval. It comes from, like, me not wanting them to experience any kind of sadness. And that's exhausting too. Especially, yeah, it's just exhausting. Like, again, my dad's very sick. Both my parents were in the hospital at the same time this week after surgeries. And I think my little sister was in the hospital too, but I don't want to ask about that because that's too much for me right now, so I'm just not going to ask about her. But when there's just a lot going on in your life, and there's a point where you have to stop people pleasing. Like, I thought I was going to fly out there to take care of them, and I felt so guilty when I didn't. But I'm honestly so much happier here, not trying to fix everything for other people, and not trying to control their happiness and control their comfort, because they had 3 other kids to be doing that, and I spend a lot of time out there. And, you know, like, I moved there for 6 months to take care of my father, and that was tiring. And now I deserve rest, and we all deserve rest, because we've all been through a lot, and it's okay to acknowledge how much you've done for people and how much you've done for yourself, you know, how hard you're trying. Even sitting here and listening to me instead of watching some stupid television show about, like I was watching Jury Duty earlier. It's so funny, and I could have just kept watching Jury Duty earlier, but talking to people about these kinds of issues makes me feel a lot better. And so doing this, instead of watching some TV show that would have done nothing for me, you're here learning more about ADHD, hearing about other experiences, and that's saying a lot, because, again, you could be doing something like dumb and like whatever, and you're here listening to me talk about ADHD and sharing your experiences. Hi, Khalid. How are you? Hoping you're doing well. But yeah, even doing this is like something that's helping you, and you're learning, and I'm learning, and you're in community with people. And even if it's just me and like a bunch of us in the chat, I'd love to do a Zoom at some point where we could all see each other or hear each other. But it's something, you know, and we have to be proud of ourselves for the little things that we do. And do things that make us feel better, and just try to improve. Like, I feel like a lot of people I know, again, a lot of us, we are victims, I will acknowledge that, but a lot of us sit in that victimhood and refuse to make any changes. And it really is so brave and strong to look at your issues and not just sit there with them. and I know a lot of people can't do anything about their situation, and that this isn't about you. This is about the people that where you've been slacking, you haven't been covering the important things in therapy. You've just been covering something really basic and surface level, and you've been doing that with your therapist when you could have done something deeper and dealt with something that would have helped you more. I feel like I'm really hot. I feel like it's important to be willing to try, and I feel like that's just a common situation in my life. Like, I'm always trying to get better. And my husband likes to say that I like to search for diagnoses, and I worry that I am too. But I feel like I'm trying to figure out and learn more about myself and learn everything I can about myself to try to improve my life. I thought I might have PDA, so I'm like, maybe I am autistic in some way, maybe I have some slight ones, so I'm going to test it with my psychiatrist this week. And I might not be autistic at all, but if I am, I'm able to learn something about myself and the way I behave and why I behave that way, and try to learn tactics to improve my situation. And yeah, I really identified with the PDA, the pathological demand avoidance, and sorry, my husband texted me. What was I saying? Girl, I can't remember a thing. As soon as I get off topic or get distracted by something else, absolutely everything in my brain is gone. I don't think there's anything left. Oh, okay. I really identified with the PDA, the pathological demand avoidance, but again, I didn't feel like girl. The concerta is wearing off. There's absolutely nothing left in this brain. Okay. So once I figured out that I find some relation to PDA, I found that I was able to look into it a bit more and learn about why I might act that way. And so I was able to institute new tactics with my husband and myself to improve our relationship. And he's changed the way he asks me to do things, and I changed the way I respond. So I feel like learning about my brain and learning about the way it works and learning about the way I work, I feel like that helps me to find solutions for my problems. Hi, Rory. Do you ever feel like a burden to others, and have you lost friends or strained relationships due to your ADHD? I don't feel like a burden to others anymore, and the reason I don't feel that way is because I am actively working to improve things, and I don't keep people in my life who don't see that, or I distance myself from them. I definitely have almost lost friends or strained relationships due to my ADHD. With my ADHD, everything that is not right in front of me is out of mind. And all of my close best friends live in a different state. And we text, and whenever I fly home, we see each other, and it's great. But there was a period of my time, the year that I got diagnosed with ADHD, and that was the year I was also trying to find answers. So I was in the doctor's offices, I was doing all these things. I didn't text them. And they were going through a really hard time also. So it wasn't just about me, they were going through a hard time. And I didn't contact them. And they ended up messaging me and being like, hey, I feel like you're being a really bad friend. You're not being there for me when I've needed you. You haven't contacted me about this, even though you know I had a really hard time. And I feel like that was due to my ADHD. It was because it was out of mind. I didn't see it. I just didn't think about her because she wasn't there. That object permanence issue. Where if it's not right in front of me, it doesn't exist. And I took responsibility. I said to her, you know what? You're right. I have been a very bad friend. You have been here for me in the past when I've had issues, and I really abandoned you this year, and you're 100% right. I'm so sorry, and I really value you as a friend, because she told me, she's like, I don't know if I can keep being friends with you if this continues. And I said to her, that's totally fair, because I haven't been there for you. And I told her, I'm going to work on being better because I really care about you and I really care about our relationship. And so I was forced to make changes. I can't just change my object permanence issue. but I didn't want to lose her as a friend, so I had to make some changes, you know? And that one was my fault, and I'm willing to acknowledge that, and I try to fix it. Again, I used to feel like a burden to my husband, who I was just so tired all the time. He just didn't get why I wasn't helping him or doing all these things. And I stopped feeling like a burden when I started doing a little bit more to take care of myself, or to improve my situation. Like when I started looking for answers, I started feeling a lot less like a burden because I was trying to improve it. And he also saw that and acknowledged that. And if a person doesn't acknowledge that and is still complaining about you, then that might be a their thing. You know, you're trying to get better, but you're not. You're trying to get better, and they're not acknowledging it. That might be a them thing. You know. If you have any more questions, I'll probably be on for a few more minutes, but I think I have to get off. My husband's texting me. He went to a party, and I bailed on it because I didn't want to see people. But yeah, Rory, if you're dealing with a hard time with relationships, definitely, I hope it gets better again. Like, some people aren't meant to be in your life, and some are, and the ones that are meant to be in your life will work with you to improve things and make your life better, make their life better, you know? I also told my husband I would clean the living room because we demolished a bunch of stuff in the house, and I haven't done it yet, and he's getting home soon, so I'm gonna have to do that. But yeah, thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me. I really appreciated it. I have some videos coming up. I have a video on finances and budgeting, just a few things that I do to help me budget that like are ADHD friendly in my head. And then I have a video that I'll be doing on ADHD and relationships, and then I'm gonna do that video on ADHD and jobs. Thank you so much, Rory, for subscribing. I really appreciate it. It really encourages me to do more. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Hopefully I'll see you soon, and